And I'm Marshall, and this is Twin Cinema.
Alright, so in this episode we're going to finish up our review of the movies Bloodsport and Orpheus. This is going to be a comparison of the two films. If you haven't seen our individual reviews, please click on the annotation and you can give it a watch.
Yeah. Alright, so Theo, this was a bit of an experiment for us. Normally we have a very specific theme and we're kind of more familiar with the movies before we do a review.
So you figure out, what is it about these movies that we're going to put together.
But here, we just had a pun.
Yeah, it was a pun. I thought it up in a movie theater when we were talking about episodes. I was like, Jean-uary. That's funny, right?
Yeah, totally.
Here's a couple things that really stood out to us. Number one for me was really the visuals of both films. It's very interesting because it's pretty interesting. There's definitely a disparate idea between the two. So you have Cocteau's Orpheus, which it's obvious that Cocteau is really pushing the boundaries. You have these really gorgeous, elaborate shots and this really awesome use of special effects that are practical. That it's funny, this movie is, it was made...
It's 1950, so it's, 64?
Yeah,
it's
like 60...
No, 67. Wow.
67.
What year is it?
67 years old. And they still hold up.
Yeah.
His use of... it's funny because the things that we do... We wouldn't do them that way now. We wouldn't use reverse shots, right? We wouldn't use water as the mirror and going into the mirror. But funnily enough, it doesn't seem hokey. Does it seem hokey to you?
It really worked. Again, it has a dreamlike quality, which works. I mean, obviously, when you're in the death realm, it has a bit of a more dreamlike state to it.
But we take that, which is obvious, you see these gorgeous shots. It's obviously that visuals are very important to Cocteau. Mm-hmm. But then you compare that to Bloodsport. And I'm not saying that Bloodsport's filmed poorly, or that, it's inept. It's not
Well, it's not bad. Actually, I think it's really good. I mean, I think I enjoyed the visuals and the editing more. Granted, it's not memorable. There's so many parts of Orpheus that really stick out in my mind.
When it's transferring the mirrors, right?
Yeah, transferring the mirrors. Not only that, but there's that scene where they're traveling through the underworld, they find time and they fall, or when the first time they're in the underworld, and it's not a green screen, but it's they have Herbitus in front. He's actually walking, and then they have rear projection.
Yeah.
Having Jean-uary, Orpheus, he's walking and so it shows, it does a really good job. It's fake, but it shows they're totally separated. So that I think about, and I really did enjoy the production design and the cinematography and the editing of Bloodsport. It seemed gritty. It seemed a little bit not realistic, but also just realistic enough that you were immersed in the world. I felt I was immersed in the world. It felt realized. But there's no just scene that I can just think of when I think of Bloodsport, other than when Frank Dux gets blinded and
Right, and that's what I mean. It's a difference between kind of a mainstream versus an avant-garde film. It's obvious that Cocteau is trying to push the envelope of what film can be visually, whereas Bloodsport is really relying heavily on cliches and tropes of action movies, specifically for the 80s. And the use of montage is, very heavy. And we all know that that was not even just action movies. That is a staple of pretty much any 80 movies had a montage. I mean, sports movies in particular had a training montage. But, you know, it's funny because it relies on that so heavily, and it really relies on really well-established tropes to tell the story. And sometimes not the best effect. I feel like montages really work well in, they work very well in, like, a tournament.
Yeah.
Because it shows a progression of time and actors without spending too much time on individual fights, right? But I think, to me, the worst part is not the flashbacks themselves, but whenever you see Frank in flashback mode, it's so cheesy.
Oh yeah, it's definitely cheesy, and didn't always make sense. To be perfectly frank, like there's that one scene where he's sparring against Mr. Tanaka, and you just kind of see like the camera goes into Mr. Tanaka, and then you see Frank just plummeting to the ground and. See it again, like you don't see any action. It's just like I guess maybe because the guy who plays Mr. Tanaka maybe was not the best fighter. But I think if you do a cliched or a trope-filled story right, it can be really enjoyable in a way that an experimental film can't. And I think if you really love cinema, I think you have to be able to appreciate both the experimental, the groundbreaking, but also have a love for the normal, the cliche, the trope. So that's just my 2 cents on cinema in general.
Definitely. So do you want to talk about the other thing we had discussed?
Yes. So this is not intentional. Like I said, we really didn't know anything about either Orpheus or Bloodsport outside of like superficial what they were basically about. But one thing I did notice, a thematic similarity between the two was duty, professional duty versus personal duty. Because both of them really deal with it. Bloodsport, it's Frank Dukes going against his professional duty as a military professional going against his commanding officer's orders to do a matter of personal pride by being in the Kumite, by, honoring his they're not adopted, but basically they are his family even though they're not related by blood. Whereas in Orpheus, Death and Hypatus have a duty to perform as far as like being angels of death, and yet they both go against what they're supposed to do because they're in love with Orpheus and Eurydice. So there is that kind of thought about duty and which is more important, personal or professional duty. And both films kind of are very both vague about which is more important.
Yeah, I think you're also forgetting, in terms of Orpheus, there's there's the parallel duty of Orpheus's feelings of his duty as an artist and his duty as a husband. So,
you're right.
Whereas the agents of death forsake professional duty for the duties they feel towards the people they love prior to Eurydice's death anyway. Orpheus forsakes his duty as a husband to his duties as an artist. There's that one scene in the car that I think really exemplifies that.
Orphée, notre enfant ne vivra pas de ces petites phrases.
Voilà les femmes, Heurtebise. On découvre un monde, elles vous parlent layette et impôts.
So yeah, prior to Eurydice's death, he's really focused on being the artist, but afterwards he switches and that's why he goes to the underworld.
Yeah. Well, I think a big thing with that is he's also, I think, felt guilty about, not being there for Eurydice when she dies.
Understandable.
So, yeah, it's definitely understandable. So there's that. And it's a weird thing because when Orpheus abandons his personal duties for his professional, his artistic duty, he's kind of punished for that, or Eurydice is punished for that. Whereas when Herbitus and Death forsake their professional duty as angels of death for their love, they're punished for it. I mean, that's how the film ends.
Yeah, they're really punished.
Yeah.
Quand on est arrêté ici, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Ce n'est pas drôle. Ce n'est drôle nulle part.
In Bloodsport, it's really interesting because he's got those two officers running after him, but like they kind of just they
ignore their duty too.
Yeah.
Now what? Are we gonna stop?
Follow me.
I guess we can look at both films and say that they both posit the idea that duty is very important. But that priority of what's the most important duty shifts on a regular basis.
Yes. Well, I will say, I think that is something that's really, I think one thing that definitely does kind of put Orpheus over Bloodsport is because it acknowledges that you have your duties, and that means like a real sacrifice. Frank Dukes doesn't sacrifice anything.
You know, you're really a pain in the ass, you know that?
I'm just glad you're on our side, kid.
Right? It doesn't. If there are repercussions, we don't know about them.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, there isn't any.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's probably the biggest difference between a more like feel-good action film and a, you know,
Yes.
French.
The wonderful happy ending of Bloodsport and the very, very bleak walking towards oblivion ending of Orpheus.
Yeah. And like I said before, there's a place for both, and I would definitely recommend both.
I would as well.
So.
All right. Well, that finishes up our comparison of these two films. We will see you guys next month in February for our month. Our theme next month is going to be Foodie February. We talk about two movies about food, two of which are my favorite. Or sorry, they're not my favorite necessarily, but they're two of my favorite films.
Yes.
Marshall, would you like to give them?
Yes, it's Tampopo and Babette's Feast. Again, they are also two of my very favorite films, so
Very good.
I'm definitely excited.
All right, and as always, please make sure to subscribe to our channel so you're always up to date. Make sure you're checking out the other Alcohol Hollywood products, Alcohol Hollywood's main podcast, and Alcohol Hollywood on Tap. On Tap will be next week, where Clint reviews a fresh movie. And thank you guys very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.